On Mother's Day last year, my first pregnancy came to an end. I can't really tell you how I knew that it started that night, other than to tell you that a really severe sadness came over me, and I went to bed early and I laid in bed and I cried for 3 hours straight. The actual physical miscarriage didn't start until the next day. But something deep in my core told me that that was the time that that baby decided that this was not the body for him. It wasn't a surprise that it happened, because I'd been seeing a doctor. And just the week before, he had said to me that even though I was 8.5 weeks pregnant, technically, that the embryo had not grown past 6 weeks. And that, most likely within the next week, a miscarriage was going to happen. So despite the fact that I was trying to be positive and think good thoughts and put it out there to God and the universe that if this was meant to happen, I was ready for it to happen, it didn't. When the actual miscarriage started, I was surprised at how consuming it was. I literally could not think of anything else other than what my body was doing. And a visceral grief came over me like I have never experienced before and have not experienced since. It was the most emotionally painful thing I've actually ever been through. But after a few days, when the physical pain had subsided and the doctor confirmed that my body had indeed expelled all of the contents that were supposed to have become a tiny human, my husband and I had a decision to make. You see, the year before, we had decided that we were going to have a child. And I had gone to the doctor to find out whether or not my body was still fertile, because I was 40 years old already. Given my age, and given a particular hormone marker that indicates what your ovarian reserve is, which is a fancy way of saying, do you have any eggs left, lady? She told me that my only real option to get pregnant was to do IVF. But my husband and I didn't want to go that route. And so we set an intention that we would become pregnant naturally, if at all possible. And when that decision was made 10 months earlier, I began doing everything I could to feed that intention. So the good news was that I had actually gotten pregnant. And then I had to decide if I could deal with the potential grief again if another miscarriage were to happen. Now, I don't have to tell you the exact outcome of this story and what our decision was, so I won't keep you in suspense. But my point is that when you make a decision about something that you want in life, a desire or a dream that you have to feed that intention. Good intentions are not good enough. You have to do something if you want that dream to become a reality. And this applies to everything. Your health, your job, your relationships, anything you want to accomplish requires that you feed the intention if you want it to be real. So I want to give you my top 4 suggestions about how you can feed your intentions. The first thing you have to do is to seek out the guidance of various experts and resources who can tell you how to achieve what you want to achieve. I've done any number of endurance events in my life, the longest of which were 2 Ironman triathlons and 5 marathons and a handful of things that were shorter in between. But when I decided that I was going to do these, the first thing I did was buy some books, join some clubs, hire a coach, get all of this information about what I needed to do to actually complete a triathlon. I actually had to take swim classes because I could doggy paddle with the best of them to go get my margarita off the side of the pool, but I could not actually do a front crawl. You have to seek out these resources. And those resources can be self-help things, they can be online, they can be books, they can be magazines. They can be professionals in the area that you're interested in, whether it's a coach, whether it's a guide, somebody that you hire who's a professional to actually tell you what to do. Or it can be somewhere in between. It can be mentors, it can be friends. It can be people who have done what you want to do, who can give you guidance based on their experience. But you have to figure out how you're going to feed your intention. The second thing you have to do is to put together an action plan and then actually do it. I could have read all the books, hired all the coaches, but when it came time to actually doing the training for that first Ironman, I had to know, was I swimming that day? And if I was, how far? Was I cycling that day? And if I was, how far? Was I running that day? Sometimes all three on the same day. But you have to know what it is you're actually going to do and then go do it. And be sure that that to-do list contains little actions and big actions. Because you never know on that day if you're going to be able to accomplish everything. Maybe on that day the best you can do is go out for a walk. Go do it. Maybe on that day when you're starting your small business, the best you can do is research web hosting carriers. Just do that small thing. They don't have to be big, but they all have to lead you in the direction of your goal. The third thing you have to do is to keep going even when you hit obstacles. I will tell you that miscarriage was the biggest obstacle that we faced as it related to getting pregnant and having a family. Because I will tell you very honestly that my husband and I discussed whether or not we thought we could go through it again. Did we think that we could actually survive another one if it happened again? But we kept going. We decided that yes, our intention to have a family was bigger than that particular obstacle, and we continued doing everything that we needed to do. There were many months where my body said it didn't actually ovulate, and certainly many months where I didn't actually get pregnant. And we actually did go through a second miscarriage. But we kept going because the hurt that we experienced wasn't as big of a deal as the potential hurt of believing that we hadn't done everything we could. That intention of having a family was more important. If you're starting your own business, if you're changing careers, if you're looking to pass the bar exam, running marathons, whatever it is, you're going to face obstacles. And that to-do list is going to seem insurmountable. But the only way your dream becomes reality is if you feed your intention and keep going even when you don't feel like it. The fourth thing is to evaluate your progress and to make adjustments as necessary. I just mentioned that when we had the miscarriages, we had to decide if we were willing to keep going. I went back and looked at my to-do list to figure out, was there anything else I could possibly do? In triathlon training, there were days that I told my coach I wanted to quit. I'm done, I don't need this. And he was like, all right, let's just back off training for a week. Reevaluate where you're at after a week, get some rest. And starting a small business, there will be days where you're like, this is too much, I don't even know if I can do this. And maybe at the end of all of those things, the right answer is that you change direction. Maybe your intention changes in that moment, and that's okay. But you want to evaluate how you've done, where you're going, and then readjust to feed your intention as it is in that moment. We are getting our dream, as best we can tell, in 14 weeks, approximately, depending on how on time he is or is not. I've finished those Ironmans. I've started a business. I know that many of you have accomplished things because you've shared your stories with us about being a small business owner, about running that marathon, about passing the bar exam, fingers crossed today. We all have done this in our lives in various ways. But if there's an intention that you have that you're not quite there with yet, I encourage you to feed your intention. Figure out what it's going to take to get there. Use the guidance of professionals, resources, etc. Make a to-do list, and then follow that action plan. Keep going even when it's hard. Evaluate your progress and adjust as necessary. And the fifth thing, the most important thing, celebrate every success. Not just the outcome, not just the fact that you actually succeeded, but celebrate yourself. Celebrate the effort that you made to get there. Celebrate the dedication that you showed to feed your intention until that dream became a reality. Because it can, and it will.